How's everybody doing out there? This is Duane Fletcher with Fletcher Community Media. Um, I'd like to do a quick podcast today. Many of you may know me by some of the books that I write. Okay, I got a bunch of books out. This is one of them right here. Uh, Black Hand Act Two, The Child in the Storm. This is a really good book. Let's see. Look at some other ones. Here we go. This is the original one right here. Black Hand Part 1. I don't know if you can see that. There's a wicked glare in here. But that's it right there. Okay, there you go. Um, this one's about a tennis pro that allegedly works as an assassin for the KGB. Um, and this is part two of that. This is also a very good book. This is Black Hand Act 2, The Child in the Storm. In this book, basically, the character that's the governor basically goes crazy, tries to commandeer the National Guard in Florida to go after the vice president. It's a really good book. Recently, Vice President Harris and Ron DeSantis got into an argument about a storm here in Florida, and they went back and forth and started arguing. In this book, I have a very similar type of argument with Florida governor and vice president, and it's a really good dialogue. If you guys get a chance to check it out, it's called The Black Hand Act 2, The Child in the Storm. Um, and they once they started arguing, that was like $1 million worth of free press. So I got a book that has a similar type of argument in it. It's a really, really good action novel. If you get a chance to check it out. Here goes some of my other stuff that I got up here that I've written over the years. The Nibbleniks, Codename Lionfish, the Arrows. If you go on blurb.com. You go on blurb.com, you can preview some of the new stuff for free. It's unlocked, basically. It's unlocked. All you have to do is press preview right here at the bottom. Press preview, and the books are unlocked so that like the publishers and people like that can review them. And basically, you just go in there and start turning pages, and you start turning pages, and you can read it. You can read it for yourself. It's a really good book. So if you get a chance to check it out, there's a free preview on BLURB right now. Okay, so that being said, I want to talk about some stuff that's in the news recently that has to do with some global news. Uh, Global news. Let's see. First off, I want to talk about BRICS, the BRICS Summit. Now, recently, BRICS just had a summit. And they finally decide to have the summit in Russia because Vladimir Putin apparently he can't leave Russia because he'll be arrested. This issue came up about a year, maybe 2 years ago, when they had the last BRICS summit in South Africa, I believe it was. Vladimir Putin, he said he was going to go, but he didn't go. And then I think before that, it was in Egypt. The year before that, the BRICS summit was in Egypt, and they Vladimir Putin was. I don't think he attended that one either, or something like that. But it's like he's been skipping some of these meetings, and it's because he's going to be arrested. Possibly be arrested. I know if he leaves Russia, for war crimes and other crimes that he's committed against Ukraine with his illegal invasion. Okay, so that being said, I don't know if some of you don't know what BRICS is, but BRICS is basically a new currency that these different countries came out with. It's BRICS is a like an acronym for Brazil, Russia, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and I think South Africa. And I think that's the five countries that founded the BRICS movement, where they wanted to get away from the American dollar and form their own currency. Uh, and they've had some stumbling blocks here and there. There's a lot of scrutiny against it though on the internet. Um, they're supposed to be all digital now. Now they have their own pay cards out, BRICS pay cards. But let's see, let me get a picture of it. But I think they have their own pay cards out now. BRICS pay cards is this is their digital currency that they came up with. And when they first started, I think uh, Brazil was worth like 14 cents against the dollar. China was Russia was worth uh, uh, a penny against the U.S. dollar. India is also worth like a penny against the U.S. dollar. China is worth like maybe like 15 cents, 16 cents, something like that against the U.S. dollar. Um, Basically, between a lot of them, I believe the total was like 49 cents or something like that. So they had 49, these five countries had 49 cents against the US dollar. Um, I think it's going to end up in some kind of fraud. Uh, you know, uh, Russia's broke. The Russians are broke. Their currency, the Russian ruble, is at like all time low. And I think it's going to end up in some kind of fraud with, basically, the Russians are oligarchs. The Russians are kleptocrats. They operate a kleptocracy as their form of government, which means that they steal whatever he is in charge of, whatever the Russians are in charge of, they embezzle. Uh, the money from it. Basically, that's what it takes to be an oligarch. Let's define an oligarch. How do they make their money? They sell off their own natural resources and stuff like that. They sell off their own weapons. You see them buying stuff back from North Korea now. Um, but you know, this is going to end up with some type of fraud. And I've said this for years. And sure enough, when they've had the meeting in Russia recently, they put Putin in charge of their board of directors, basically. So let's see if I can see. Putin put in charge of BRICS. Okay, the BRICS Summit 2024. But I think at the end of the meeting, they said that they were going to put him in charge of their expansion that they're trying to do and stuff like that because they got more countries in it now than just the five that started. There's more countries in it now. Um, it's going to end up in some kind of fraud, and I can already see what's going. Basically, it's going. He's facing sanctions against conflict diamonds in Africa, the gold in Africa. More than likely that they're going to launder the conflict dime money from the conflict diamonds and stuff like that, and then they're going to end up in some kind of fraud and accusations against them. I'm pretty sure that probably also illegal arms deals, and such things like that. Illegal shipments of oil against the sanctions that's been placed on him. That's probably what he. That's the only monies that he can use it for. Conventional. Uh, Commerce is basically all being directed towards his war machine. So he's not making really any money as a GDP, excuse me, GNP, gross national product. He's not making any money at that, but what he does have though is conflict diamonds that not been being allowed to sell and stuff like that. And that's probably, he's got oil that he's not being allowed to sell to certain countries. That's where he's gonna probably be laundering his money at. So Um, Not to mention the fact that I believe that these other countries that look up to Russia and have joined the BRICS Summit, uh, he's probably going to steal money from. 'Em. That's probably what's going to happen. Like I said, what does it take to define oligarch? Define kleptocracy, and basically if you go through the dictionary, if you're going to see a picture of the Russians or something like that, you're going to see a picture of the Russians. If you define kleptocracy, whatever the Russians are put in charge of, they embezzle money from, and that's how they make their money. That's how they become oligarchs, period. Um, these are undisputed facts, so I'm pretty sure that the BRICS currency is no threat to the US dollar, because they're going to end up infighting regarding what the money's worth, who can buy it. Not to mention the fact that there's people like China that have debts out there. There's people like Brazil that have debts out there, and they want to use this new currency to pay their debts. And there's people that won't accept it. Like I believe it was like somebody in like Canada or England or France that told them that they weren't accepting that. I think like Brazil might owe France like a couple of $1 billion or something like that, and France was like, "Nah, we're not taking that currency," because it's I would imagine the way they're arguing over it might be like a Bitcoin or something, where one day a BRICS dollar is worth $1, and the next day it might be worth 49 cents. So, if they pay a bill with it, then the very next day it might not be worth what they pay for it. So um there's a lot of questions with it. But anyway, so let's go past that to another one. Uh, let's see. I want to go back to this other part what I was talking about before too, about South Korea, South Korea versus North Korea. South Korea and North Korea have been arguing for a very long time. I believe one of my uncles fought in the Korean War, and it's basically they've had an argument on the border for a very long time, and now the North Koreans are in Ukraine. And I believe there's one or two things that we should watch out for. One or two things that we should watch out for. As I said before, the North Koreans have a reputation of being kind of sickly, um, and not only that, but they defect. Some of them, if they don't have any family there, they're not going back. They're going to probably try and defect their news. So a couple of other people on the internet, other podcasters that do podcasts in Ukraine, have speculated on this issue that more than likely the North Korean soldiers are going to defect from North Korea and from Russia, and probably try to get asylum in Ukraine or Europe or something like that. Um, but let's see. North Korean soldier defects. Okay, so they had a guy a couple of years ago, I believe it was 2017, and North Korean soldier defects, has worms in body, and the guy he had inside his body they found very large parasitic worms. And he had like dysentery, and it means he hadn't been being allowed to clean himself, uh, shower, and they said in his stomach, because he was shot trying to defect. So the doctors in South Korea tried to save him, and they found worms in his body, these long parasite worms, very long, large parasite worms. You can look it up for yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. But they have a reputation of being kind of sickly and stuff like that, because they found corn in his body too, which meant that he had been on a very low protein diet and was basically like almost like malnutrition at the time of his defection and stuff like that. So um, there's another issue, because I already said that. There's another issue that I want to bring up. Um, the Ukrainian troops have a good chance of making all of this basically fizzle out in Putin's face. Let's see. South Korean loudspeakers. Okay, so South Korea, South Korea and North Korea both have been known to use these very large loudspeakers on the border against each other, where they broadcast different doctrine. They broadcast different doctrine and philosophy at each other as to why the other one should be on that side, or as why the other one should surrender. And I would imagine that you know, not only that, but the South Koreans, they don't just talk over the radio, they also play K-pop, which is a no-no for the North Koreans to or either listen to, and because they say it makes their mind stray and stuff like that. So if I was the Ukrainian guys, I would, basically, get you a loudspeaker, because once you broadcast a message, say, hey, um, you should surrender. Freedom is in Ukraine. Da 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 da. Some kind of message that make them surrender, and they will probably surrender because they've been known to surrender and trying to sneak across the border into South Korea many times. And, it's no secret as to what's going on there. That basically it's a communist dictatorship in North Korea, and the people are being starved. They have dog meat farms over there where they raise dogs just to eat them and stuff like that. There was this thing on TV a while ago. They was talking about people rescuing the puppies from the dog meat farm and all this kind of stuff. And I was, yeah, like they were like crying and stuff because they had to rescue these dogs. And I think that was in North Korea and South Korea, but the only dogs that they were allowed to rescue were the ones that were in South Korean dog farms, but they were not allowed to rescue the dogs that were in the dog farms in North Korea. So, they've been eating feral meats and stuff like that, and that's probably where the tapeworms and all that kind of stuff goes. So, um, uh, but they've been known to use these loudspeakers. So if I was the Ukrainian guys, I'd get my loudspeaker out, because you might be able to broadcast a message to the North Koreans that makes them surrender. That it's not a far-fetched concept. It's not a far-fetched concept. If they hear their native language talking about surrendering or something like that, they may surrender. It's possibility, because I believe that this was basically a form of psychological warfare that I believe probably United States, France, or Great Britain, or somebody like that helped them come up with, to basically use as a reverse trigger from them basically spewing lies to their citizens and trying to rile them up into attacking South Korea and stuff like that. So it's probably calming at times, and at times it was straight rebuke. I would imagine so, but it's whatever you want to broadcast. But if I was the Ukrainian guys, I get my loudspeakers out, because that's a way that you could talk to them and reverse some of this foolishness and lies that the Russians have put in their heads to make them want to come and fight in Ukraine. Or if they were forced, some of them might have been forced to come and fight in Ukraine. There's a lot of Russian people that were forced to go and fight in Ukraine. Um, but if I was Ukrainian, I'd get my loudspeaker out. Maybe put on some Ronnie Doctor Feelgood, Ronnie Doctor Feelgood. Mm. But just put on some music, some K-pop. Ronnie Doctor Feelgood, K-pop. But just put some kind of music on. There's a lot of groups over there, and it doesn't have to be this one. But let's see. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so but you could play. Red Velvet, Dum Dum by Red Velvet, or let's see, Whistle Like a Missile with like a Whistle Like a Missile by Blackpink, or Abracadabra by the Brown Eyed Girls. The South Koreans have a number of different uh, K-pop groups that they use those speakers to broadcast to basically drown out the nonsense that was being preached to them to rile them up to fight against South Korea and stuff like that. So, or you could play some Psy. How about Gangnam Style by Psy? You know, um, that's another good Korean song that a lot of people know about and stuff like that. But you know, basically, this could probably be utilized to make the North Korean surrender. So, they don't have long of a life expectancy anyway because the retired American generals and British generals that are basically critiquing the war in Ukraine blow by blow. They said at the current rate, and some of the Ukrainian military people said it too, but they said at the current rate, uh, the 10,000 troops that he sent in would only last maybe like a month or two, you know, before they were killed or captured. And that, that it's that tense over there. I know, as some of you may know, when Russia first tried to take the city of Kiev in Ukraine, there was a 4-to-1 kill ratio. 4-to-1 kill ratio. And that's basically, what they have returned to because they have predicted life expectancy of the North Korean soldiers to be around 1 or 2 months, possibly. That they might that and they won't last further than that because of how Putin is using them. Where basically he has not hired another general to run the war for him. He has hired an economist, which means that this going to end up in some type of internal argument inside of Russia where um, the people of Russia are being overtaxed and bled dry by the new economist, so that Putin can keep attacking in Ukraine and stuffing money in his pocket at the same time because he's a kleptocrat. Okay, so that being said, um, the other thing I wanted to bring up is that they're saying that the North Korean soldiers are being issued fake identities. And I kind of question this because from what I know about some of these foreign military operations, that basically they don't, number one is that Putin has been buying back 107 millimeter towed artillery from like the 1970s or something like that. Okay, so he's bought all this stuff back from them. They already know how to use it. What are they training on? And I know if he's got new T-94 tanks or brand new Su fighter jets, they're guarding Moscow. He's not going to let them go out and use it in Ukraine. So what are they training on? Because they already know how to use the 107 millimeter towed artillery that he just bought back from them. Um, I would imagine, because I'm a conspiracy guy, I'm a conspiracy theorist, that they are being issue fake identities for missions, which means that they're not going to just pop up on the battlefield with a fake identity. They're probably going to pop up in America because they know some of the South Koreans support Trump. They're probably going to pop up in other parts of Europe and stuff like that, with these fake identities and things like that. So I would watch for a group of spies from North Korea to be hanging around different lodgings in different other countries and stuff like that. That's one of the things that they do when they gather for this kind of stuff. And no, the whole world knows that he's coming. Okay, so why does he need a fake ID? Number two, he's going to Ukraine and about to be thrust into a meat grinder. Um, why does he need a fake ID? He's only expected to live maybe 1 or 2 months in Ukraine. Uh, why does he need a fake ID? You know, it's not like he sent an army of Dans over there. I know if some of y'all know what a Dan is. A Dan is like a 10th degree black belt in Taekwondo. That's what a Dan is. It's called a Dan. Um, but he didn't send an army of Dans over there. As a matter of fact, there's only like 50 Dans in the whole world. 50. That's it. That's like one, two, three, four. There's like 4 dozen. There's like 4 dozen Dans in the whole world. And so it's not like he sent uh 10,000 martial arts experts over there. They're about to be put in a meat grinder. Um, so why do they need a fake ID if they are facing certain death and low life expectancy? Um, you know, I would imagine, like I said, I'm a conspiracy guy, that possibly they're not going to just pop up on the battlefield with fake ID. They're going to pop up probably here in America, probably Canada, uh, with these fake IDs and stuff like that. Maybe South America. You never know where they're going to pop up. Depends on where the missions, whatever goes. But um, I just don't believe that he's issuing fake IDs for the battlefield. That's absurd. Because as a matter of fact, um, when all of this first started, he basically had an open invitation to some of his Middle Eastern supporters from Iran and stuff like that, and asked them to join him on the battlefield. So I'm wondering, like, if the whole world knows that what you're doing and that you're training these guys, and why do they need a fake ID for? So it must be for some type of separate spy operation, probably in America or Asia or other parts of Asia, probably Africa. Africa, I wouldn't be surprised. But like I said, it is what it is. So they're saying that he's training them and he's going to give them fake IDs, and then they're going to the battlefield. And but it doesn't make sense. Number one, they already know how to use the equipment that he just bought back. So what do they need a fake ID for? What are they training for? What are they training them on? And if they're going to the battlefield to be slaughtered, why would he give them a fake ID? It doesn't make any sense. So it's possibly some type of the birth of some type of illegal spy operation where they don't just pop up on the battlefield with fake IDs. They probably pop up in other countries with fake identifications papers and stuff like that. So just let everybody be on their P's and Q's just in case something like that happens. But if I was the if I was a Ukrainian troop, I get my loudspeaker out because you might be able to broadcast a message that makes them surrender. Um, it's just this has happened in the past. It's been a psychological warfare on the border of North Korea and South Korea. They had these huge loudspeakers. They do stuff on the border to piss each other off. Like the North Koreans, they put hot air balloons, put trash, attach trash bags to hot air balloons, and let the wind carry the balloon into South Korea and stuff like that. And then South Korea put up loudspeakers and started playing K-pop, the K-pop music, and telling them that their government was illegal government, was a communist dictatorship and stuff like that. And so they the reverse triggers should be already embedded in the North Korean soldiers' minds once they start hearing a loudspeaker telling them surrender and stuff like that. Because sooner or later they're going to have to admit to themselves that they can't win the battles that they've been asked to fight, and some of them will be dead. But before they realize that, some of them will be captured and then realize it. But that's basically what's going to happen. So that's all I had to say. And remember, if you get a chance to check me out on BLURB, Duane Fletcher on BLURB.com, DuaneFletcherBlurb.com. Remember, if you get a chance to check this one out, okay, the Black Hand Act 2, The Child in the Storm. There's a very similar type argument like the one between Governor DeSantis and Vice President Harris. In this book, it's a really good book. It's on blurb.com. Check it out if you get a chance to. All right. Ooh, excuse me. Also, you can check me out on Twitter, what they call X, under at issues by FCM. At issues by FCM. Let's look that one up too. So I'll show you what that page looks like. What my profile page looks like here. But there's my profile page. At issues by FCM. And it's got copies of my podcast, links to the podcast, and different stories and stuff like that. But if you get a chance to check it out, all right. That's all I had to say. That's it, and I'm out.